Okay. So, sorry, let me get organized real quick. Okay. Hi. All right. Today's lesson is about working with squares and square roots of numbers. Okay. So, what does that mean? All right. So squaring a value. So you hear the word square a lot. So like, I'm gonna do my best not to confuse you with it. But there's some like subtle differences you're gonna have to listen for, okay? So when we square a value, that is a mathematical operation. So when we say mathematical operation, y'all are familiar with like adding, subtracting, multiplying, right? Dividing, right? Squaring a value is also a mathematical operation. It's indicated by a little 2 exponent, and it means to multiply a value by itself. You want to think about it, when you're multiplying a value by itself, you're doing x squared, you're actually finding the value of a square. Or sorry, you're finding did I say value? The area of a square. That's why we kind of call squaring a value, because it is like the area of a square, of the actual shape of a square, because the two sides are the same number, right? Square rooting a value, which looks like is also a mathematical operation. So in the same family as adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying, okay? It looks like that. Call that a radical sign. It is the inverse, so the opposite operation of squaring a value. Okay, so these two are kind of like how, adding undoes subtracting, or, dividing undoes multiplying, like same idea here. Okay? If you want to think about it in terms of the square example, if you have the area of a square, and then you take the square root, you're going to get the side lengths of the square. Okay? Square roots can also be positive and negative, which we indicate that using this symbol called the plus or minus symbol. And that's because if you square root a number, here, let's do an example really quickly. So if I take the square root of 25, I get 5. That means 5 squared equals 25, right? 5 times 5 equals 25. Well, negative 5 times negative 5 also would equal 25. So that's why you can get a positive or a negative. All right. So we're going to talk about using squares and square roots of numbers a lot in the context of solving equations. So we're here where it says solve for x. So we're going to isolate x and get it by itself, right? And basically the only things to know are like, what's new about this lesson is if you're going to use the square operation, if you see as the inverse of a square root symbol. So if you want to undo this symbol, you square. You use the square root operation, the green thing, as the inverse of squaring. So if you see something squared, you can square root to undo that, okay? So let's do this example. So we're going to solve for x. So there's no simplifying or anything we can do. It's a pretty simple example. So we're just going to start with using our inverse operations to get x by itself. Take away 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. So that leaves me with just x squared equals 22 minus 6 is 16, right? I hope so. Yeah, it is. Okay, dope. Now, this is where I'm noticing, hey, little square guy. Right? So to undo that, I'm going to take the square root. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you in this calculator how to do that. I'm not sure what calculators we're all working with. But please notice, oh boy, there we go. Okay. So notice if you look here, see the white square button? It's the x with the little exponent of 2, right? Do you see above it the square root symbol, right? So basically, I want this button to do the purple thing instead of the white thing. If I hit this, it's gonna square the thing. So let's do like 5 squared. Bam. Okay. If I want to take the square root of that, let's clear this out. I hit second. Now this button is going to do the purple thing instead of the white operation. Okay. And you'll see 5. Okay. Gets back to 5. Okay. So, what am I doing? Oh, taking the square root of 16. So second, that symbol gets 16. You get 4. So x is going to equal positive or negative 4. And again, that's because, let's imagine, I'm going to actually check this by substituting back in to this equation, okay? And if I were to do negative 4 squared plus 6, and I hope I get 22, right? Well, negative 4 squared, notice I'm using parentheses because it's the quantity of negative 4 being squared. Then I square it. Notice how I still get positive 16? It's because negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive. So if I were to do this by hand, this would be negative 4 times negative 4, which is positive 16. And it checks out and gets me 22. Okay, cool. Next, it says in the expression below, what is A in terms of B? Oh boy. So we got A, so it's asking for what is A. We're going to isolate A and then use B to explain what A is. So we're trying to get A by itself, okay? So I'm going to use my inverse operations. I notice the square root here, so I'm noticing at 1.8 I'm going to have to square, use the square operation. Okay, but first I'll make this 9, 0. Because we start with what's furthest from the variable. So negative 9 plus 9 is 0. 9 plus negative 5 is positive 4. And then I'm left with the square root of A over B. Now, before I can do anything else, I have to undo. Like, before I can, deal with the B, I have to unsquare root. So now I'm going to do my squaring. Because, again, I saw this square root here. So I'm going to square both sides. And what that achieves on this side is, the square root just goes away. So now I'm at A over B. Equals 4 squared is 16. And then I gotta get A by itself. So the inverse operation of dividing is multiplying, so that will turn B into 1 and get A equals 16B. Okay. All right, let's flip to one where we'll talk about one that's maybe a little less obvious as to what to do, and we'll talk about our who problem-solving strategy, where we're going to talk about what the question wants, what it has, and then how we can organize our thinking to connect what it wants, what it has to get what we want. All right, so it says if square root of j plus the square root of 9 plus the square root of 25 equals 12, what is the value of 2j? So what does the question want? It wants 2j. So, huge, I don't know, there's an alarm bell going off in my head that's no, don't just find j. It's, you know what I mean? You need to find whatever j is and then multiply it by 2. All right? Well, what does it have? Well, it has the square root of j plus, the square root of 9 is 3 plus the square root of 25 is 5 equaling 12. Oop, little equation shows up there. All right, and then how are you going to organize your thinking to get j so that you can get 2 j's? Okay, hope that made sense. Thanks for listening, and we hope you have a good day. Have a great day. See ya. Yep, goodbye.